In the summer of 1816, a volcano on the other side of the world had erupted the year before, and its ash blotted out the sun so completely that snow fell in June and crops failed across Europe. Lord Byron was stuck inside a rented villa on Lake Geneva with a handful of friends, watching a summer that refused to happen. So he threw out a challenge: everyone in the room had to write a ghost story. Most of the guests scribbled something forgettable and forgot about it by breakfast. But an 18-year-old named Mary Shelley couldn't stop turning the challenge over in her head, until a half-asleep image arrived to her almost fully formed, a scientist recoiling in horror at the creature he'd just brought to life. That image became Frankenstein, one of the most influential books ever written, born from bad weather, a bored poet, and a random writing prompt. Which is the exact opposite of how creativity actually gets talked about. We treat it like lightning, something that strikes a chosen few, when almost every real breakthrough traces back to a specific, learnable mechanism sitting in plain sight. I ranked these 10 books by how much they actually change how you understand the creativity already available to you, not by how many copies they sold. And for each one, I'm going to break down the actual ideas inside. Not just the title and a one-line summary. And the number 1 pick isn't a book about creativity at all. Number 10. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Gilbert's core argument, built from her own years bouncing between commercial writing, personal failure, and eventual breakout success, is that creativity isn't reserved for the specially talented, it's closer to a working partnership between a person and inspiration itself, and the only real barrier separating an ordinary person from creative work is the decision to invite fear along for the ride instead of waiting for it to disappear first. Her key concept is treating ideas as living entities. Gilbert argues ideas float around looking for a willing human collaborator, actively searching for someone ready to do the work of bringing them into the world. And an idea that gets ignored long enough will eventually give up and move on to someone else who's actually willing to act on it. A concrete example she gives. Gilbert describes having an idea for a novel about the Amazon, shelving it for years while life got in the way, then meeting novelist and Patchett at a party and discovering Patchett had, during that exact window, started writing an almost identical novel. Gilbert treats this less as a coincidence and more as proof that an abandoned idea simply moved on to a collaborator who was finally ready to receive it. Link to grab this one is in the description, timestamped below. Number 9. The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Pressfield's core argument, built from his own decades of failed attempts before finally breaking through as a novelist and screenwriter, is that the biggest obstacle to creative work isn't a lack of talent or ideas, it's a specific, predictable internal force he calls resistance. And that force shows up strongest exactly when you're closest to doing your most important work. His key concept is resistance and turning pro. Resistance isn't laziness, it behaves more like a self-preserving force that pushes back against any act of creation, growth, or change. Resistance scales with the importance of the work. The more meaningful the project, the harder it fights to stop you. And turning pro is a shift in identity. An amateur waits around for inspiration, while a professional shows up and works on a fixed schedule regardless of mood. A concrete example he gives. Pressfield walks through his own years selling nothing, driving trucks cross-country, sleeping in his car, and describes the exact morning he stopped calling himself an aspiring writer and started sitting down to write on a fixed schedule, treating the work like a job instead of a feeling. What makes this book different from Big Magic is that Gilbert frames creativity as inviting an outside force in, while Pressfield frames it as suppressing an inside force that actively fights you every single session. Link is in the description. Number 8. Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. Kleon's core argument, built from his own path as a poet-turned-visual artist and years of writing publicly about creative process, is that originality is largely a myth. Everything creative is actually a remix of existing influences, and the artists who produce genuinely distinctive work are the ones who get comfortable collecting and combining their influences instead of pretending to invent from nothing. His key concept is creative genealogy. Every new idea is a mashup of a handful of older ideas the creator has been exposed to. And the actual trick isn't hiding your influences, It's collecting enough of them that the specific combination becomes uniquely yours, which is why Cleon recommends deliberately building a physical or digital swipe file of things worth stealing from. A concrete example he gives. Cleon traces his own signature technique, blacking out most of a newspaper page to leave a found poem behind, to a childhood habit of redacting words with a marker, combined years later with reading about older found poetry traditions. The technique wasn't invented from nothing, it was an assembly of two unrelated things he'd separately been exposed to for years before they ever collided. What makes this book different from The War of Art is that Pressfield is about clearing the psychological obstacle to sitting down and working, while Cleon is about what to actually feed yourself once you're already sitting down, since raw inspiration has to come from somewhere. Links in the description. Number 7. Creative Confidence by Tom Kelly and David Kelly. The Kelly brothers' core argument, built from decades running the design firm IDEO and teaching design thinking at Stanford, is that creativity isn't a fixed trait some people have and others don't, it's closer to a confidence gap. Most people were creative constantly as children and had it quietly trained out of them by fear of judgment, and that confidence can be rebuilt the same deliberate way any other skill gets rebuilt. Their key concept is guided mastery. Confidence returns fastest through a series of small, low-stakes wins, not through one big leap into a high-stakes project. And reframing early ideas as disposable prototypes, ready to be tested and thrown away, changes a person's entire relationship to failure. A concrete example they give. The Kellys describe a woman terrified of drawing joining a workshop and being guided through a series of tiny, disposable sketching exercises with nothing at stake, and within a single session her fear of not being an artist measurably drops. That drop is the proof the block was a learned habit, not a fixed lack of ability. What makes this book different from Steal Like an Artist is that Cleon addresses where raw material comes from once you're already making things, while the Kellys address the earlier problem, why so many people quit before they ever start collecting material in the first place. Link is in the description. Number 6. Where Good Ideas Come From by Stephen Johnson. Johnson's core argument, built from tracing the origins of major innovations across history, from GPS to the printing press, is that breakthrough ideas almost never arrive as a single flash of insight. They emerge slowly out of a specific set of recurring environmental patterns, and once you know what those patterns look like, you can deliberately build them into your own life or workplace. His key concept is the adjacent possible and the slow hunch. The adjacent possible describes how, at any given moment, only certain new combinations of existing ideas are actually reachable given what already exists. A slow hunch is a good idea that starts as a vague intuition and survives for years, quietly bumping into other people's hunches until it finally clicks into a full idea. And Johnson argues liquid networks, environments like coffee houses, cities, or connected labs that let hunches collide, produce far more breakthroughs than any individual genius working alone ever does. A concrete example he gives. Johnson traces GPS back to scientists tracking the Doppler shift of Sputnik's radio signal for a completely unrelated reason, and realizing years later that the same math could run in reverse to locate a receiver on Earth. The idea sat dormant for years before someone else's separate hunch connected to it and turned it into a usable technology. What makes this book different from Creative Confidence is that the Kellys work on the individual's internal fear, while Johnson zooms out to the external environment, showing that even a fearless individual working in isolation is less likely to break through than someone embedded in the right network. Links in the description. Number 5. A Technique for Producing Ideas by James Webb Young. Young's core argument, built from his career as an advertising executive in the early 20th century, is that idea generation isn't a mysterious gift, it's an entirely learnable technical process, closer to running an assembly line than waiting around for inspiration to strike. His key concept is the 5-step method. Gathering raw material, specific information about the immediate problem plus general knowledge pulled from completely unrelated fields. Digesting, actively chewing over that material, hunting for relationships and combinations. Incubating, deliberately stopping conscious work and handing the problem over to the unconscious mind. The eureka moment, the idea arriving unexpectedly, often during some unrelated activity, once incubation has quietly done its work. And shaping and developing, taking the raw idea out into the world and refining it against actual reality. A concrete example he gives. Young recounts his own habit of collecting unrelated newspaper clippings and quotes with zero apparent relevance to a current ad campaign, then deliberately going to a concert or a movie to distract himself. That deliberate distraction was the trigger. The idea would surface almost fully formed the moment he stopped consciously chasing it. What makes this book different from where good ideas come from is that Johnson describes what has to be true in the world around you for ideas to emerge, while Young hands you the literal step-by-step procedure to run inside your own head, regardless of what environment you happen to be in. Link is in the description. Number 4. The Medici Effect by Franz Johansson. Johansson's core argument, built from studying how the Medici family's patronage in Renaissance Florence accidentally pulled together painters, sculptors, poets, and philosophers with zero business overlapping, is that the most explosive creative breakthroughs happen at the intersection of different fields, not deep inside a single specialized one. His key concept is the intersection versus the direction. The direction is ordinary innovation, small incremental improvements made within a single field. The intersection is what happens when concepts from wildly different fields collide, producing combinations nobody purely inside either field would have thought to try. And Johansson argues associative barriers. The deeper someone's expertise in one field, the harder it becomes for them to imagine ideas outside its usual boundaries, which is exactly why outsiders often spot the intersection faster than experts do. A concrete example he gives. Johansson describes an architect stuck on how to design a self-supporting glass roof, who studied the structure of a spiderweb and directly borrowed its tension distribution principle. Nobody purely inside architecture had proposed that solution, because it required stepping outside the field's own associative habits entirely. What makes this book different from a technique for producing ideas is that Young's method combines old elements already sitting inside one person's accumulated material. While Johansson's Medici effect works by physically placing different fields' material next to each other in the first place, before any individual even starts digesting it. Links in the description. Number 3. The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. Rubin's core argument, built from his decades producing musicians across every genre imaginable, is that creativity isn't a technique to master at all, it's closer to a state of attention, and the actual job of a creative person is less about generating ideas and more about noticing the ones already surrounding them constantly, then getting quiet enough internally to let them through. His key concept is the artist as antenna, not generator. Rubin treats the artist as a receiver tuned to signals already present in the world, rather than a machine manufacturing ideas out of nothing. Self-consciousness, worrying about the audience or comparing to other work, is what jams that signal. And the seed of a work often arrives during a moment of ordinary attention, which means the artist's actual skill is protecting that fragile seed from premature judgment long enough for it to grow. A concrete example he gives. Rubin describes sitting in on sessions where an artist plays a rough, unfinished idea and immediately apologizes for it or dismisses it before anyone in the room has even reacted. His actual job in that moment is often just holding off that self-judgment for 30 more seconds, long enough for the artist to hear whether the idea has something real inside it. What makes this book different from the Medici effect is that Johansson is about deliberately colliding external material to force a breakthrough, while Rubin is almost the opposite move, quieting the internal noise enough that material already present becomes noticeable in the first place. Link is in the description. Number 2. Originals by Adam Grant. Grant's core argument, built from research studying entrepreneurs, activists, and inventors, is that people commonly picture original thinkers as bold risk-takers who dive in fearlessly, when the actual data shows the most successful originals are often more cautious than average. They just get strategic about exactly which risks they take and when. His key concept is the risk portfolio. Originals frequently hedge one major risky bet, like a new venture, by keeping something stable running alongside it, like a day job, rather than going all in from day one. Grant found that people who procrastinate moderately on creative tasks without missing the actual deadline, often produce more original work, because the incubation period lets divergent ideas surface instead of just the first, most obvious one. And originals tend to rely on generating a large volume of ideas rather than a single flash of unmatched brilliance. Quantity, not perfect quality picking, is what actually predicts a genuine hit. A concrete example he gives. Grant studied Warby Parker's founders, who kept their day jobs and internships for nearly a year after founding the company, hedging their bet in exactly the cautious way the bold entrepreneur mythology insists they shouldn't have. Founders who kept a day job while building a company turned out to be statistically more likely to survive than those who quit immediately, precisely because the safety net let them take bigger creative risks with the venture itself. What makes this book different from the creative act is that Rubin describes the internal, almost spiritual posture of receiving an idea, while Grant hands over the external, practical strategy for what an original thinker actually does with an idea once they already have it, including timing, risk, and sheer volume. Links in the description. And number 1. The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn. Unlike every other book on this list, this one isn't a book about creativity at all. It's a work of the history and philosophy of science, built from Kuhn's own research into how entire scientific fields actually change their minds. Kuhn's central claim is that most intellectual progress isn't a gradual pile-up of new facts onto old ones, it's a periodic, total replacement of the whole framework a field uses to see itself, and the biggest creative breakthroughs happen exactly at the fracture point where the old framework stops being able to explain what's actually being observed. His key concept, for this list, is normal science versus a paradigm shift. Normal science is the everyday work done inside an accepted framework, solving small puzzles the framework already assumes are solvable. Anomalies are results that don't fit that framework, and they're almost always dismissed or explained away at first rather than taken seriously. And a paradigm shift happens once anomalies pile up past a tipping point. The field doesn't get quietly updated, it gets replaced wholesale by a new framework that can't even be fully translated into the old one's own terms. A concrete example he returns to. Kuhn traces the shift from an Earth-centered to a Sun-centered solar system, showing astronomers spent centuries bolting increasingly complicated fixes onto the Earth-centered model to keep it matching observations, rather than ever questioning the model itself. That went on until Copernicus proposed a genuinely new framework, one that made the exact same observations suddenly simple instead of endlessly complicated. What makes this book the definitive number 1 on this list is that every other title here is teaching an individual how to produce a better idea inside the framework they already have. Kuhn is explaining the mechanism by which an entire field's framework becomes creatively obsolete and has to be torn out and replaced, which is the largest and rarest form of creativity there is. Link is in the description. The number 1 pick proves something simple. A method can tell you how to generate better ideas inside the framework you already have. Only an understanding of how frameworks themselves eventually break tells you whether you're actually being creative or just getting better at rearranging furniture inside a room that's about to be torn down. Which of these have you read, and which one changed how you think about creativity? Drop it in the comments. This is Toon Review, now go be rare. Go be a golden black llama. See you in the next video.